Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, who also work on XState, need to get that right. um, we're full of exciting things brains today, and that's why I'm not able to talk. And it might be a short one because we have got a lot going on that we are so excited to share with you soon. So let us. This is what we do most weeks, not quite every week, a live stream where we talk about what we've been working on at Stately and on X State and with the Stately Studio. And let me introduce you the rest of the team, or let them introduce themselves. We'll start with me. I'm Laura, and I do advocacy for Stately. How about you, David? Can you remember who you are?
Some days I can't, but I'm David, QA engineer, founder and CEO or whatever, creator of XDate. I can't even think. We are just too full of things we're working on. uh, you'll see why soon. But yeah, creator of XDate, founder of Stately.
Excellent. Kevin.
Yep, I'm Kevin, and I'm also working on engineering, creating and fixing bugs, and also doing QA and having a great time.
Fixing all the bugs that David finds, and the rest of us find as well. And
I contribute too.
Hey everybody, I'm Farzad, based in Finland. I was hired to be an engineer, but I produce bugs so everybody else in the team has job security.
Excellent job security here.
Yeah, too great. In fact, yeah, part of my job this week has certainly been doing all the attention to detail things that I say need fixing and annoying everyone with that as well. So first up, we had a question from Programbo. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Nick's not here to answer. He is a big fan of hot dogs. But what about the rest of the team?
You know what? Funny enough, last week, or I think it was last week, when we celebrated our 50th office hours, we went to a couple of us went over to a place called Hot Dog Heaven, and I had a celebratory hot dog for our 50th office hours, and I think it is a sandwich technically. I mean, at what point does it not become a sandwich?
Yeah, it's an item between two slices of bread, or I guess surrounded in bread. Is that what a sandwich is? Anyway, moving swiftly on. David, do you want to give a little demo of something that you've been working on this week?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's jump right in. So, I'm actually going to zoom in here. We've been making so many improvements to the editor and to the studio in general, and so this is just tip of the iceberg sneak peek of just some of the improvements that we've been working on. This is a machine that I created actually to show Farzad because we're talking about simulation mode, and we want to make simulation mode a little bit better. So actually, I'll just go to that first if it doesn't break. Hopefully not. But you'll see that we have some designs here that make it a lot clearer to show which state you're actually on and which events you could do. These aren't the final designs. These are just some intermediate design improvements that we're working on with simulation mode. And we hope to just make it a lot more clear and introduce even more features on top of that in the future, such as being able to replay scenarios and record them as well. And of course, you could go to statelyai.canny.io if you want to suggest some features related to that. But as far as the canvas itself, we've been focusing actually a lot on the general user experience and accessibility of the canvas. And one of the biggest things that I have noticed and others have noticed when I watch them try to play around with the editor is just how small these these can get, especially if you're zoomed out. Well, we did a bunch of refactors, and now you could see that these pretty much stay the same shape, which admittedly is an expected feature from any sort of diagramming tool, but I'm sort of proud of it just because it took a lot of math to get to this point. We're doing like inverse zooms and all of that, and also
so
this. Yeah, we are in the process of redesigning these popovers too, and it's also a lot more smooth how they move around the canvas because they are actually now part of the canvas instead of being just some floating pop over thing. And also with states, similar thing, but you might have noticed, again, these are tentative designs, but we have these new pluses over here. Creating a state is still the same, but now you could, create an edge from the top, left, right, bottom, and pretty soon we're going to be respecting your choice on which side the edge is created from, so that no matter where you move this, it's going to stick to that side. And in the future, maybe even have customizability for where exactly on the side this goes. I like to think of it as autopilot for edges, where instead of you having to drag the line and everything, you should be able to, just have the engine know where the best place to draw the edge is. And so that's our goal. So again, doesn't matter how far you zoom in and out, it's going to work. By the way, if you don't know, you could press the control key to zoom in as well. If you don't have a trackpad, or well, if you just want to use, control and trackpad, you could also press control plus and control minus. So yeah, pretty soon we're going to be focusing a lot on keyboard shortcuts as well. All of these are just part of suggestions that, people have made. And so again, I really, really encourage you to make all the suggestions you want at statelyai.canny.io. And of course, we have some new looks here. Just there are so many exciting things that we can't wait to show you in the coming weeks.
Little sneaky peeks going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you have any thoughts or suggestions when it comes to those keyboard shortcuts, I know that it's very important to a lot of people, the keyboard shortcuts and what we do and don't do, particularly in the area of accessibility as well. So if you have any strong feelings about that, please do let us know. Those arrows, the transitions coming out of the and the positioning of it reminds me a little bit of a little library you wrote for the landing page that we did with all the arrows on there.
Oh yeah. Oh, one more feature. Speaking of, well, not exactly that, but something else that I want to tease. We are also working on exports as well. So Farzad is working on JavaScript and TypeScript exports from here, and pretty soon Code Sandbox and StackBlitz. And another one, which will be out pretty soon, is I already have the URL here. Hopefully, it's still in my clipboard. But this exact machine, I could convert it to Markdown, so that you could take this, go to Dillinger, or any Markdown program you want, and basically you have this text-based version. We have some bugs to fix, but a text-based version of all the states and transitions. And so depending on your role in the team, this could actually be easier to consume than a diagram a lot of times, but it is still useful to have both. And also these are going to be hyperlinks to the actual states. So technically you could simulate the state machine within your Markdown diagram or Markdown document, which is pretty cool. So this is coming soon as well.
That's going to be a game changer for me, because the amount of time it takes me to write the alt text when sharing an image of a state machine, hey, this is going to do most of the work for me. It's making it very clear what all of the states and the events are doing.
Exactly. So yeah, that's all I have to show. Oh, wow. This is very simple.
It's just because you're zoomed in so intensely.
Exactly.
So people expect an interface to be pretty crowded when it's zoomed in that much.
I wanted to say David subtly demoed a few other features, but I mean, the one who realized will realize.
Yeah, you'll have to watch back to work out what, or do a compare and contrast in the future, or spot the difference.
Oh, yeah.
When he told me that he was demoing from localhost, I was like, oh, make sure that you have the right feature flag combinations.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. Oh, Hudaciel says, hi, been a while, didn't watch the live stream for a while, happy to be back. Well, hi, Hudaciel, nice to see you again. So this is probably going to be quite a short one, and we are going to be off next week because we will be frantically working and traveling all over the world. But we will be back the following week, the date of which I don't quite know right now. I'll work it out and post about it.
Yeah, it's also a few team members' birthdays. Gavin, Laura, and Jenny, they're having birthdays, I think either this week or next week. So
I think
even
Nick
if we're
is
not
as
here,
well.
yeah.
I
So
think it's almost half the team has birthdays in the same week of October.
Isn't that
Yeah.
team alignment? That's nice.
yeah.
Well, I
We
don't
are-
even know that October is traditionally a popular month necessarily for birthdays, but it's great. We get a birthday week.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do the math on that one, but we'll assume it's a popular month for reasons. Anyway, quickly finding a comment to look at. Hey, look,
I was
John, can't wait to use it in Safari. Yeah, so part of the improvements that I just demoed here are going to feed into some of the Safari work that Farzad and I have actually been exploring, just because it is a very important use case. And also Laura and Nick have been begging us for it too. So trust me, we do want to get this working in Safari, especially for iPad. You know, I'd love to be able to take an iPad and design a state machine or flow or workflow or whatever you want to design just using the iPad in the studio.
Yeah, shout out to everyone else who doesn't use Google Chrome as a default browser. Every time
Right.
I open a link to the studio, I open it in Safari. So I have a reminder and then I go and nag the rest of the team. So that's my job.
We know
I
your
am
pain.
advocating for Safari, folks. Oh, this common belief that Safari is the new IE, the new Internet Explorer. There is always issues in browser compatibility, but it is very important that we do have multiple browsers. I think it is important that we have competition in browsers. It's important that we have a difference in browser engines as well, although we're slowly disappearing off that direction, because that is how we have different companies and open source projects fighting for better features, better browsers, a better future for the internet. And we don't want to get stuck with just one browser, because that way they decide everything we get to use and everything we get to see. And that's not something we want.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, Safari has been making leaps and bounds in innovation. They're introducing a lot of great new features, and Google Chrome, just my personal opinion, is sort of doing the opposite, and they're giving people reasons to use different browsers. So
yeah, it's just different browsers also prioritize different features, often based on their business models, and you don't necessarily get to see into the decision-making process on that side. But I know that David and I both know a lot of people involved in advocating and building browsers, and those people work very hard, and they are trying their best to get these support for the features that we want, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Builder.io. David, what did you do for that this week?
Yeah, so I actually did a live stream with Steve at Builder.io, and we had a really interesting and fun conversation about the future of visual tools for coding. And we sort of eschewed the notion of like low code, no code, because I think what we both believe in terms of the future of like coding is visually augmented tools. They're tools that allow you to write code, but also help you visualize that code. We don't want to trap you into like, you must do everything within this tool. And if you try to do anything else outside, then, it's just not going to work. Instead, we want tools to just enhance the way that you normally write code. So that's one of the biggest goals of Stately Studio, of XState version 5, and of pretty much everything else that we are going to be working on. So it was a really fun discussion. So I really encourage you to watch that. The link is there if you could optically copy it. I don't know if you could do that on Mac or Windows, but
I'll make sure it's in the link onto the notes later on.
Yeah.
Farzad, you actually were on a podcast last week as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I'm ashamed that I don't remember the name of the podcast now.
It has been quite a week. That is totally understandable. But
That's
I will
true.
add the link to that below. I think we've all had a lot on our plates this week. So I will add the link to that as well. And trust me, it's got Farzad in it. It's going to be great. And it will definitely be worth listening to.
I advocated for a Stately for like half an hour. So if you've been watching like the sequence of office hours, there's no spoiler for people who are following the Stately.
Mhm.
But for anybody else, yeah, lots of stuff there.
I think it's also interesting for people who are less familiar with Stately to go and watch things like that, because they get a better introduction as well, rather than being thrown in at the deep end in our live streams.
Yeah, but for even for people who've been following the Stately from the beginning, we half of the podcast we just spent it to talk about the roadmap and the vision and how I see the future of a Stately and our tooling. So I would say it's still worth half an hour.
Martin says, was it the This Is Tech Talks one? That was it, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. This is Tech Talks with
Thank you,
Santosh.
Martin.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so go check out This Is Tech Talks to watch the video, and we will include the link below. So I already mentioned that there won't be any office hours next week, because Kevin and I will both be partying in New York together. And David, you'll be at React Brussels first?
Yes. So first React Brussels and then React Advanced in London. Both of those are going to be use effects talks. And then All Things Open in North Carolina. So closer to me.
Great. So you will be traveling all over the place, back in Europe again, and then back out
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
Hey, you just gave the successful talk in Alicante last week.
Oh yeah. Kevin was there. That was really fun, and thank you. We also did a longer demo of my typical Stately demo there. So that was fun. Nothing broke because I did it on a dev build, not in production. So people there got to get a little preview of what we're going to be releasing soon.
So tell us a bit more about React Alicante. Did you get to talk to people afterwards and see what their responses were to the demos?
Oh yeah, and so there's actually a handful of companies that we met where they were like, yeah, we're using XState in production. We use the Stately editor for visualizing logic, and these are not even just small companies, but actually big companies with offices all over the world. And so it's really exciting to see. I also overheard someone saying, yeah, hey, the demo was cool, but man, that big JSON object is pretty ugly. And I totally understand. Ultimately, the goal is that you shouldn't have to touch that JSON object. Instead, you just touch the diagram. But honestly, the JSON object's not that bad. If you like GraphQL, then I mean, you already like JSON objects, so I don't get the.
Well, I mean, and a big JSON object is much better to compared to an absolute mess of booleans all over the place, isn't it?
Right.
That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin, how did you find? Because was this your first conference as a part of Stately?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it was really exciting. And I also spoke to a lot of attendees, right after your talk, David, and they were still really curious about what they saw there. They thought it was a great demo. So yeah, there's a lot of people asked questions and good things to say. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's always exciting getting to chat to people at conferences. I did manage to talk to a few people at Design Matters in Copenhagen. I gave some examples from our Stately branding as part of my talk on color accessibility, including screenshots of the studio and the website and things like that. And yeah, a lot of those designers not very technical, but a few people that I met, they'd studied computer science, so they were really intrigued as to how state machines could be used in their work nowadays. So I think we'll get there with the designers. We might have a little way to go, but we will get there.
Yeah, I'm excited to add more splashes of color.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I had a lot of color going on in my talk.
Mm-hmm.
It was and did some fun little experiments using our docs to show how we can make them exciting. So that will be fun in the future. It's a color accessibility bug, so maybe it's for Laura. What's the color accessibility bug, John?
You just opened a ticket about some action text in light mode on Canny.
Yeah. I've been one of the things I've been going through and spotting is some light mode bugs that we have, and that's definitely one of the things I think they're already fixed. in our in probably what will be the version that's released soon. We're pretty on top of the light mode situation. It's looking good. Oh, it's looking so beautiful. You're all going to have a great time when you get your hands on it. It's not just looking great, it's working really great as well. These changes, like with the scaling controls, it makes a huge difference to the experience. They might seem like very tiny things, but they really do add up with the experience. Yeah, blue guard background and light gray text. Yeah, that's not ideal. Probably fixed in David's demo. Oh, I don't know if we want to test that right now.
Yeah, not sure.
Depends what you've branched off.
It does bring up an interesting point. We introduced light mode a few months ago, like right before RemixConf, right when Kevin and Anders and Nick started. And it's sort of a good analogy to just state machines in general, because just adding one more mode where it's like, hey, let's add light mode. How hard could it be? It multiplies the combinations of things that you could do in two. So yeah, now every little change we make, we have to consider light mode, dark mode, and so if we add a third mode, it's gonna explode even more. So sort of a good analogy to the software design process of adding a feature. You think it's just one feature, it's really not.
It's a great analogy. Well, does anyone have any questions? We can answer some questions. We have some time if anyone has anything they want to ask us. I don't know if anyone on the team had anything else that they wanted to share this week, just aside from saying how addled our brains are by how much we've been working on. Oh, Matthias says, do you have a vague timeline for V5?
Yeah,
the ever-present question.
Yeah, I was talking to Mateusz about this. Right now, our focus is on the studio and also on the extension, so the VS Code extension, if you've all been using it, and the bidirectional algorithm there. However, after that, we are going full steam ahead with just putting some core parts into XState version 5. We do have some pending huge PRs there. And hopefully, right now it is an alpha. It's not widely known, but you could play around with it as it is right now. But we are, of course, still making some big changes. So hopefully we're going to be making a public announcement later this year on a potential XState V5 beta. No promises, but it is something that after we release some stuff, we'll be focusing a lot more on.
Yeah, I think it's the attention to detail behind the scenes on what's going on with V5 is really important. I think Mateusz is really reluctant to release something that's going to break and that's going to be difficult to understand, because the really great thing about having a V5 is that we can work on making a lot of the state charts concepts easier to understand and make sure our terminology is consistent and it's consistent with the code. And hopefully that's going to make it much easier for people that are coming new to using XState as well.
And I think that's a really good point. It's like one of the main goals of version 5 is to eliminate redundant concepts and also just simplify a lot of things in general so that it's not mental overload to learn XState. It's reduced to just the core concepts while still allowing you to represent as complex application logic as possible.
That's it. You still be able to have really complex machines, just hopefully it'll be easier to make them.
Yes.
John says that he has a lot of questions, but someone else asked some first, so it's not just me interviewing the Stately team. Go ahead, interview away. We accept your challenge. We are all about transparency here as much as we possibly can. That's what makes office hours so fun, is the ability to have this back and forth every week.
Exactly.
Here we go. Matthias asks, do you anticipate big breaking changes with V5? Will it take long to migrate a complex machine?
So all of this is in the open. You could look at the V5 branch and take a look for yourself. The machine structure is very much the same. And we're also trying hard to make sure that we mention deprecations in V4 so that you could just start even right now slowly migrating over to V5. I would say some of the biggest things are going to be around how you invoke and spawn actors. Again, we're trying to make this as simple as possible. So now there's a more unified API for it and a predictable just interface. So big changes will be around that. But in terms of your normal machines, not much is going to change. Maybe some naming things, like instead of cond, which isn't even a full word, it's going to be guard. So you're going to be able to have guards and yeah, so just some methods are going to change, and hopefully we could provide code, just automated code fixes, whatever they're called, for that. But in short, no huge breaking changes, maybe some subtle ones. We are talking about getting rid of the idea of external versus internal transitions. And I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes I myself forget the difference or forget like which one does what. It's a very, very complicated part of XState. And the reason why is it's been taken from SCXML, which defined like this is an external versus internal transition. We don't want developers to worry about the difference. We want it to just be as intuitive as possible. So we're going to simplify things there.
Yeah, I had a fun chat with Mateusz about that. We had a call where he drew lots of drawings for me, and I think I understood it, but I'm not sure how we could easily communicate it to everyone else.
It's not easy. Again, I get confused myself.
Matthias says it sounds great. So thank you. One of John's questions, can XState running on a server throw data at a visualizer?
In theory, yes. Go look at the latest Learn with Jason episode that I did. I think it was a few weeks ago. We did exactly that. I tweaked the visualizer a bit. It's not in production right now. Instead, it's on a branch. Again, it's all open source, so you could take a look at it. But basically, we were using a, what's it called? Oh, it's bad that I don't remember the name. It's a MySQL database, whatever it's called. The new one. Anyway, we were using a database that was running from a JavaScript SDK, and we were also using Netlify Edge functions, and we were able to simulate a machine, and we made it so that anyone who had a link to the machine could click an event on the machine, and it was updated everywhere. So it's definitely possible.
Was it PlanetScale?
Yeah, PlanetScale, that's the name.
Yeah.
I was thinking Snowflake, and like it's definitely not Snowflake. PlanetScale, that's the one.
It is impossible to keep up with everything new that is.
Oh, I know.
Being released.
There's also Tailscale, oddly enough.
And John says it would help with short-lived machines on serverless functions to see what happened.
Yeah, and that's something that our backend engineer, or one of our backend engineers, Gavin, has been working on as well. So hopefully next year we're going to be showing off some more serverless function state machines. So
yeah, that's going to be exciting. Martin said, since we're in a V5 discussion with guards supporting operators, I guess the studio will have to support handling these as well.
Yeah, eventually we will get there. And in general, just supporting custom guards, actions, invocations, and being able to show a custom view for each one. That's something that we've been talking about, and we do want the editor to be flexible enough to just support different types of things too. So but yeah, this needs design. Need to pull in Nick here because this is going to be really fun to visualize.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's already more consistency between V5, the terminology, and guards as we're using them in the studio. And so I think we're definitely making progress there. All right, well, thank you, John. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Matthias, for your questions. Hi with heart. Nice to see you here. Anyone for anything else today? Otherwise, I shall start wrapping us up. That makes it sound like I'm going to put us in a little blanket or something. After the week we've had, it's what we feel we need. Okay, well, it's been lovely having you all here this week. Thank you for joining us again. We will see you in 2 weeks' time, not next week, 2 weeks, where we will have so much to share with you. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to having a lot more to share. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.
See you all.